Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I am going to now play the slideshow. So I wanted to start by saying I'm both an artist and an activist. I've been involved in many campaigns. One was the anti-fracking campaign, which was a successful campaign to rid New York State of fracking, as well as opposing military intrusion on densely populated areas and pristine wilderness areas. I feel that since human behavior stems from our beliefs and values, I've always tried to share my perceptions through my art in order to affect human consciousness and therefore our behavior. So I'm going to start with a piece from my series, Conscious Evolution, The World at One, which is now housed in the Smithsonian Institute's National Air and Space Museum. The following piece is entitled, I Stood on the Lunar Surface, and is inspired by this quote by Eugene Cernan, who was the last man to walk on the moon, who said, I stood in the blue darkness and looked in awe at the earth from the lunar surface. What I saw was almost too beautiful to grasp. The series focused on the big picture and seeing our planet from a distance and the challenges and opportunities that face humanity. This piece was created in batik and color Xerox, and you can see that quote is handwritten at the bottom of the piece.
Nice.
Thank you. That led to a commission from NASA in 1989. I spent 3 days behind the scenes along with 4 other artists, and it was to commemorate the US return to spaceflight after the Challenger accident. So we stood in the press area and watched the launch, which, you know, the shuttle disappeared in about, it seemed so fast. And I thought, what are we really doing? You know, in a kind of mythological sense. And this quote came to me by Joseph Campbell, and where we had thought to travel outwards, we shall come to the center of our own existence. And the title of this piece is Self-Discovery. The shuttle was actually the Space Shuttle Discovery, which you can see encircling this, this form with the astronaut in the middle. It's in the shape of a mandala and also a medicine wheel, which is used in Native American traditions for healing ceremonies. We're going to move on. This is a little palette cleanser because the next series of images are very different from what you've just seen. In 1996, I had the rare opportunity to begin learning Byzantine Russian icon painting with a master iconographer from Russia. This is an icon of Archangel Michael of the Apocalypse, and all of the images that you do as an iconographer are they're established imagery that have been handed down through the ages. But not long into the practice, I felt something, well, I knew something was missing. Nature was really merely the backdrop for the human divine drama, and acutely aware that humans are derivative of the earth, and including all the saints and holy characters that are depicted in icons. I started conceptualizing a new icon of the whole earth from space. And I paired it, I like to pair my images with words, and I paired it with this quote by my mentor, Thomas Berry, which is his vision of an ecological age. A luxuriant earth community, mutually enhancing in all of its layers and levels of life and being, where the minds of the universe are safeguarded and nurtured, where the creativity of each nation of every species is energized for the total vibrancy and joy of the whole community of beings. And this is the icon of, it's entitled The Earthly Paradise, Icon of the Third Millennium. It's created in the same method and materials as in traditional icons. And I added another dimension to the physical planet by encircling the fragile envelope of the atmosphere with a gold halo to portray the Earth as having reached its fulfillment as a bio-spiritual entity. Then it was, however, as we entered the new millennium, it seemed to me that instead of moving towards an ecological age, humans were exploiting the Earth with ever more violent means, leading to the endangerment and extinction of species at the rate of 150 per day, which is 1,000 times more than the normal rate. And it was at this time that I began my project of icons of threatened and endangered species to lift up the intrinsic value of all beings. And you mentioned Barry E.O. Wilson earlier. This is a quote that I just heard him say not long ago online. Global warming is only the first of 3 environmental crises humanity has been destined to pass through this century as a consequence of human action, each related to and impacting the others. Global loss, I'm sorry, I have to minimize this. Global loss of biodiversity is the only one that's irreversible. So these are a few of the works that will be in the show, Earth on the Edge. They're also executed in the same method and materials as traditional icons. This is an icon of the pangolin, which is the most illegally trafficked animal on the face of the earth, poached and slaughtered for their scales, for the same reason rhinos are being hunted to extinction, magical powers associated to another body part. Their scales, ironically, are used for protection in the wild, but attract lethal human predators from whom they have no protection. This is an icon of the honeybee. They are severely threatened due to the use of toxic pesticides, destruction of habitat, and lack of forage due to monocultures. They have been dying off at a record rate for the past decade, and without bees and other pollinators, 30% of our crops would be wiped out. However, we have to remember that aside from their use to human beings, they have intrinsic value. This is an icon of the Florida panther. It is now critically endangered with about 100 individuals left in the wild. Human encroachment and vehicle collisions are the main threats to this beautiful, majestic animal. One of the quotes that I'm very fond of repeating is Thomas Berry's quote, where he says, okay, now I can't remember it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna exit here.
While you do that, I'm going to read a couple of the comments. Leah Paula says she loves the quotations that inform your work. I think we all are getting like an extra dimension from what you're quoting. Marcia Annenberg, the curator and organizer of the show, says she loves the concept of the holiness of disappearing species. And Babs Reingold says, great quotes. Yes, the loss of biodiversity is devastating. And as Wilson said, it's not reversible. You can't really create species. Nigella Hilgar says, your icons are so beautiful as well as important. I'll have to add that, you know, whenever you can go back to an earlier time and use a very old technique and bring it forward, there's some sort of magic in that. Often something new is really just a combination of 2 old things. Simone Spicer says, these are fabulous. I love how you have spiritualized and immortalized the animal, the biodiversity. So let's go with maybe 1 more minute or less, Angela, and then we'll move on.
Sure. Well, I wanted to say that another way of activism is that I donate 50% of the sales of my work to the Center for Biological Diversity. They're a really great group that does a lot to safeguard species and their habitat. And what I wanted to close with this quote from Thomas Berry, While the human cannot make a blade of grass, there is liable not to be a blade of grass unless it is accepted, protected, and fostered by the human. And with that, I will leave you, and I look forward to seeing you at the exhibition.